Well, I think we're up and ready, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome everybody to our top producer panel today. I'm just here to introduce your sponsor, Ms. Cindy Yaramio, and she's actually doing double duty today, and that's why she's in her car. She's sponsoring and leaving the WCR luncheon. Thank you for not Zooming and driving. We appreciate you. So Cindy, I'll let you go ahead and take it away.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Yes, it's a bit of a crazy day, but I'm so happy to sponsor the with Bank of England. I loan officer there. Bank of England is a local lender. We are completely in-house processing and closing. We do everything right here, which means we have a quick turnaround. We do all programs. So obviously we do our conventional, sorry doesn't sound good. I put my info in the chat box, so I do apologize.
Cindy, if you turn your video off, you might get a little better audio connection, but if you, yeah, we'll definitely put your information in the chat box.
Better?
A little better, yes.
Okay, so you don't have to look at me. So Bank of England, we are local, so everything here is in-house. We do all programs. We do a lot of out-of-the-box lending as well. So condo hotels, foreign national, 1099 programs, no income investment products. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Put my info in the chat box, and thank you. And I do apologize for the connection here.
Can we ask for a question?
Absolutely.
So thank you very much for sponsoring the meeting. This is Swick. And can you do a loan for a Canadian?
I do, yeah. So that's a foreign national, and they're very simple.
Piece of cake. I might have someone to send to you.
Great. I'll put my info in the chat box.
Say that one more time.
She's going to put her information in the chat box.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, welcome everyone. I am super excited to be here today. This is our second in-person top producer panel in the last year and a half. So I'm super excited to see all the ones in the audience. This is also a Zoom. So it's going to be a hybrid. So the ones on Zoom, we welcome you. Please feel free to have questions in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring that, as well as questions in the audience. We welcome questions. This is about a conversation. This is also, we're here to just learn. I'm super excited about our top producer panelists. Our topic today is going to be crushing it with sellers. And as our top producer committee, we take time to do our research to make sure that we bring the ones that are top producers and experts at the topics that we provide for you. And these are definitely top producing agents that work with exclusively sellers. And so I want to introduce to you Candy Swick with Candy Swick and Company. And I also want to introduce to you Robert Casella with Preferred Shores. And Robert and Candy, would you please give us a little bit of background on why, how, and when you became in real estate? Go ahead, Candy, take it away.
Okay. So thank you for understanding that I wear a mask to protect you. So why, how, and when did I get in real estate? I thought it looked like fun. My dad had been a realtor many, many years ago. He was a corporate executive, and we got transferred about every 2 years when we got a promotion. I watched my mom. She was a fashion illustrator. She was very talented at looking at something and improving it. My parents always made money when they sold. So I thought, oh,
We can't hear her. We can't hear her at all.
Oh, can you put your mic up a little bit closer?
all right. How's this? Is this better?
Much better.
Okay.
We can't hear you.
All right. Thank you for telling me. So I got into real estate because of moving every 2 years and seeing my parents buy a house. My mother having the talent to put it together and resell it. I thought it was a great opportunity. We moved here. We bought a brand new house in the Meadows. And the salesperson took one look at me and said to the person at the bottom of the list, "You can have this one." I walked in with a child on my hip, and she didn't think I was qualified. My husband and I paid cash, and this is about 44 years ago, when we bought a house for $80,000, brand new in the Meadows. But she didn't think we were qualified. So I got into real estate because when we moved here, I figured out that we didn't have extra money for my husband, who worked at the hospital as a pharmacist, had an extra Coke with lunch. And I didn't believe in borrowing money. So I got into real estate and I went to work at Palmier as an on-site salesperson. It was really tough my first year. Babysitters, a car, and clothes cost me more than I made. But the second year it didn't. So I went into business to earn a living, help my family. And when I left on-site sales and went to downtown at Bay Plaza, which was on site, I became president of their marketing and sales when they offered me the job, and learned that you could do anything you put your mind to. And after that, I went into general real estate to help other builders and developers, and my clients came back and segued into general real estate. And I hope that answered your question.
That is, thank you so much. We so appreciate that information. Go ahead, Mr. Casella.
Hello. I just want to start out that way. Where did I get in real estate first? Here in Florida, I started at with Lennar Corporation out in Heritage Harbor, and that happened about 2007. I came up right when it was basically at its worst. So it was kind of a trial by fire when I was there, and every day I came in, the prices would go down and the features would come out. And so that was quite a way to learn real estate. And in the end, it was the best possible thing for me to do, because I attribute that to why I'm really good at what I do now, or I like to think I might be okay at what I do. So that was a valuable experience for me. In terms of why I'm in real estate, that's a great question. My dad was always in real property law. He went to Stetson Law School here, just right up the road, and he was always telling me, he calls me Bob, you gotta, get into real estate. This is a really lucrative career. And if you just have, hard work, and you reasonably good with people, you can make a lot of money doing it. And I didn't go into real estate saying, hey, this is what I want to do. But it did comport with some of the strengths that I have as a person. I love people. I generally enjoy, just like Handy said. I mean, and I've kind of shared with you, my one thing I always say is, to me, everyone is a book, right? You open up the book, and some of them have pop-up pictures, some of them are War and Peace, but they all have a story to tell. And when you read that book, you can learn so much more, and it gives you so much more of a perspective on how people are. And if you look at people that way, not just as someone you're trying to extract something to, but you actually have a genuine, and again, I was observing you as I was doing this, you were more curious about everyone else in the room than actually telling your story. And I find that fascinating, because I felt myself turning this way, because it was really, that's kind of how I live my life, is if you treat people in a way that you'd hope to be treated, you can go a long way. And if you have that, real estate can be really successful for you from an empathy perspective. But I got into real estate probably because I like people. That's probably the honest answer.
That's awesome. Well, we really appreciate that. We are so excited. So as you know, we're talking about sellers and crushing it with sellers. And what I would like to do is give them, agents out there, a perspective of what is going on in the current market. It is president right now. It is unique, but I also want to express and give them understanding on what a normal market is, if you would call a normal market of sellers. So if you could give us a diversified understanding of the current market versus a normal market, that's for the questions, that would be awesome. So the question that I know agents would love to know is, what helped you decide to become an expert in the sellers versus the buyers? What made you more lead toward going with the sellers aspect? What do you enjoy most about the sellers? Go ahead, whoever.
Actually, I enjoy the buyers more than I enjoy the sellers.
That's really funny.
Because I like exactly what Bob said. When my family got to go on vacation and I didn't, I looked at each person as, exactly, if you look at my notes, as a book or a movie. That's exactly the way I look at them, because I love books and I love movies. So Alex was the movie, and I got to find out all the details of the moving parts of his movie. So I loved buyers because they got stuck in my car with me. And by the time we finished, you had completed the book or the movie, and it was fun. And they knew you really cared. So to transition to sellers, I needed to learn the same process. Sometimes it's a little harder, but one of the things I learned when I listed property is that people go, you spent so much more time with me than anyone else. And I would say to you that investing that time with the people, when you're listening, re-listening, listening to them is probably the biggest key that I would give you. Because they're afraid that you're not listening. They're afraid that you're there just for the money and you're going to take advantage of them and you really don't care. You just want to price it low, get in and get out. So listen for them. Write down what they're telling you when they tell you, because then they know you're paying attention. What I really see with paper and pencil.
Thank you, Candy. And so, Robert?
It's funny. What she said basically is really echoes. I like buyers too, in a weird kind of way. Now, let me couch that in a couple of things. When you first start out in real estate, oftentimes you're working with buyers a lot more. And my philosophy when I started out as well, since I can't get listings very well, at least initially for me personally, that was my universe. I started out with the buyers because I knew they were going to turn into listing opportunities. And I got the experience first with working with buyers, which helped me learn the listing side of things fairly proficiently. And then eventually when it was my time to start listing homes, I've already had a lot of those conversations just on the flip side. So I just had to inverse that relationship in a sense. And in terms of why I like working on listings, I think what you said is really relevant. I do like coming in. While technology is great, there is something to rolling up your sleeves and having a pen and paper. And for me, I'm like, oh, that's fascinating, because I really believe it. I'm like, when they tell me something, and half the time I will get off and I'll be talking about, oh my gosh, what are you cooking there? And that's part of the other allure, not just making it about, of course, we're all here to make a living. I'm a salesperson, imagine that. We're in real estate to sell so we can provide for our family. But in reality, part of what I like is sitting down at the kitchen table and getting to know them, because 90% of selling is just, hey, do you get along, right? And then, of course, competency comes in to work together to hopefully create a really attractive package for them to consider you as their realtor. But it's an opportunity to really get to know people. And from that, if you do it right and you're genuinely interested in what they have to say, people will see that. They won't look at the cover of the book. They'll look in the book. And once you look in the book, you can show them all the wisdom that hopefully you can provide in listing their home.
Wow, that is so awesome. So sharing and listening, being intimate with them, taking time, not rushing them is a good source of information. That is awesome. What do you find is the most challenging working with sellers?
You get to go first once.
All right. The challenging thing to work with sellers is probably setting the right expectations. Usually because, and that's part of why you have those conversations up front. It's kind of like when you're cooking and you need to prepare that discussions, you've got to sprinkle the salt on it and let things kind of loosen up a little bit before you take a bite. As you can see, I speak in a lot of analogies, metaphors, because that's how I communicate. And that's part of your style, is leaning into the style that you have, because as my late great friend Michelle Hunt said, you're a crappy someone else. I mean, she said it with another expletive, but I'm gonna make this G-rated. Gosh, I lost my train of thought. Where are we at?
You were talking about sharing what you do with analogies, which helps draw them.
Expectations. Okay. So the hardest thing is to make sure you can, by having that conversation up front and getting to know them really well, you can soften that discussion regarding price, condition, and things of that nature. It's really, people are viewing life through their prism, and it's about expanding that prism so that they can maximize the benefits of that particular market. And part of that is just having an honest discussion of what their home is worth. And the closer we get in alignment to the market, the better off ultimately they're going to be. But sometimes they will look at things and they have something in their mind's eye, and you have to sometimes wait for the right opportunity for them to have that epiphany, after the home goes on the market. And then that should solidify your position in terms of the expectations that you set initially. So if you can't get the win up front, you can get the win on the back end. And but for me, at least personally, it's going in there, demonstrating your value relative to other realtors and their value proposition. That's a particularly challenging one, because there are a lot of really, really great agents out there. And the competition can be pretty thick. And if you don't ask the questions to discover what those other agents may have shared with them, then that can be, if you don't do that discovery process, you're not going to find out and be able to inform them the way that you think the home should be marketed.
He's really good.
I don't know about that. I feel like I'm sitting next to a legend and I'm just Bob.
I'm just old with so that's So one of the things that I learned, that I still learn every day, is not to tell them it's not what I say the value is. It's what the market says. Because if you say, I think the value, it looks like the market value is $100,000, which we know there's probably none out there right now. Then when you come back and say to them, the market seems to have changed. Well, you said remember, it's not you. You're looking at the data and the information. You're bringing the data to them. And one of the things I do, which seems to help, I talk about, I'm here talking to you today, and this is I literally do that. This is a snapshot in time. It's a new day. And when it's a new day, it's a different snapshot in time. And it's really important to get that across to people. And this is a very unusual market. If I tell you I've been doing this for 43 years, and yes, I'm that mature, I've never seen it like this. I've seen it when I started and interest rates were 17%. And yes, I sold property. I've seen it when you had too much inventory and nobody wanted to buy, and short sales and everything else, but never no inventory. So when I go in for a listing now and they ask me, what do you think? I said, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if it will appraise or not appraise. And if you ask me 4 or 5 years ago, I could almost be spot on within less than 0.5% what it would sell for, because they would do that much research. I don't know. And some people, why should I work with you? And I said, because I'm going to tell you what I don't know and what I know. So you know when you ask me a question, I'm not making up an answer. I'm going to tell you what I know and what I don't know. The other thing is, I can tell you what you can do to put your house in the best position to market it, if you wish to do that. Because a lot of times when I come in and they say, well, tell me what we should do. It's like, well, if I tell you before the sign the papers, you're going to say, you're just picking on me. If I tell you before you sign the listing, you're going to say, you don't like my house. And the reason I know those terms is because they've been said to me by sellers before. And I think Bob made an excellent observation about listening to the people and what their expectations are. So I would say to Mary back there in the corner, there is no Mary because I can't remember anybody's name, so it's easier to pick on a ghost. Mary, what's important about selling your house? Well, selling it. I said, well, what's important about it is important because you wish to move, or you wish to pay off a loan, or you are getting married, or, you know, tell me what's important about it. Then you learn more. You need to know if they have any money to make corrections or fix up, because if you ask them to fix it and they don't have any money, it's a problem. So, you know, you go through and you talk to them and ask those questions, you find more. You have to be not afraid to ask a question. Not agents who say to me, oh, I don't ask them about their financing. Well, if you don't ask them about their financing, how can you be a good partner with them? How can you help them? Well, I don't know much about financing, so I don't get into that. And if you don't know much about financing, go find a lender with good experience that can answer a question, that can educate you, so you come to the table knowledgeable enough to say, those are good questions. I bet that Joe can answer those questions. He's a mortgage person who's been out there a long time. Be their resource, be their helper. You don't have to be the expert, but you bring good information to them. I can tell you how to stage the house that would make it look more spacious and more presentable. I can tell you that all the lovely little rugs that you have scattered all over the house, which makes you feel good and you comfortable. When we take a big picture of your house and you squish it down, to about this big on their phone or this big on their computer, all they see is a bunch of spots with rugs. Not selling rugs, you're selling floor space. And all those lovely pictures on your refrigerator that mean so much to you, they're an ugly distraction to the people looking at your house. They think you're covering up rust spots. So just, having those discussions with them, so you're there to help. Not picking on the people that work the streets every day, all day long, that hear those complaints. You're the one that gets to tell them before the market tells them. And I tell them, the market's not nice. They don't really give up about you. The only thing that buyer cares about is them, because that's their job.
Wow, thank you so much for that information. I really appreciate it. So having the information, talking to them calmly and empathetically and talking to them and expressing your feelings and being genuine, because they're going to read who you are and they're going to know exactly if you're serious, genuine, honest. That is so much awesome information. My question to you is this: when you first started getting your listings, and for agents that have decided, I'm going to try to give the listing side a chance, how did you get your listings and how did you start retrieving those clients? What did you start to do?
It's fun to go first.
Well, my situation might have been a little bit different in the sense that I started off at a builder. So in a sense, I was listing homes all the time. I didn't have to work for it because they just gave me the listing. So that was pretty awesome. So, but when I went out on my own, one of the things besides just knocking on all the doors of the people that I sold to previously, the way that I attracted other listings was simply working. I had two people that were influential in how I evolved. And one said, Robert, you gotta just go to your sphere, just go. And it's true. Every time I call someone on the holidays, I'll go through and I'll call all the customers that I've ever had, or I try to call up every customer, and I just have a conversation with them. And I'm always good for a couple deals every year just from making those calls. And then over time, once you do a great job for someone, then your phone over time just starts ringing automatically. So if you have that gold standard, then all of a sudden people are going to be like, oh, you listed my friend's home. So that was a big part of how I started getting listings, is just doing the basics and developing, having genuine conversations with people. So that was a big element. The other way that I bolstered my position was by having a presence online. I knew that for me personally, now you don't need to custom build a website or anything, but it's important to have some kind of online presence, whether it's Instagram, somewhere where you can point someone to, because people have a tendency to believe what they see and read. That's why we're in this polarization of society, because they have a tendency of believing what they see. So we take that psychological concept and you apply it with real estate. They know you exist. You get the reviews on Google and Zillow, and they see that you exist, right? So these are ways to solidify, even if you're a young realtor that doesn't have much business, perception is everything, right? And if you can control the perception of who you are, I didn't know anything when I went out on my own. I had no idea when I went into general real estate. I was always working for the builder, which is a completely, well, not completely different, but when I went out on my own, the first thing I did was knock on all the doors of the people that I knew. And that was enough of a foundation for me to get those first couple of listings. And then once you get a listing, you know, there is a sphere of opportunity surrounding listings. You get the buyers, you get the name recognition, and again, you're going to get, you know, you're going to create your own gravitational pull the more you do listings. And then your world will start shrinking because people are going to look at you a little bit more closely because you're getting those listings. And once you get the first couple of listings and people start seeing your name, it kind of snowballs over time. So that's how I kind of got started. I just went to my sphere and then I developed a website to kind of legitimize myself in the real estate market. And then from there, it was, you know, success is incremental. So I didn't have all the business right away. I just started doing 1%, 1%, 1%, and then eventually it was 50%. And then I was kind of on my way. That's it.
That's awesome. Thank you. Candy, how did you start when you first?
He's really good.
He is. So are you.
The same way. It's doing a great job with that one person that you have. It's also, if you're working with the buyer and you're working to sell, I'm working to sell Bob's property and all I have is a buyer. That seller of that property and that realtor see you, and know if they'd like to work with you again. And like Bob says, stay in touch with those people. They are a gold mine. It seems to be the hardest thing to talk agents into, which is calling past clients. They don't want to do it. They'll send them an email or a text. They don't want to be bothered. They don't want to hear from me. It's amazing. They're thrilled that you take the time to call them or wish them happy Father's Day or happy Mother's Day, or I sure hope you had a good time over the weekend. It makes you feel important. It would make them feel important. I mean, how would you feel if your dentist called and said, you know, you were in and had such a great checkup last year. I just wanted to check and say thank you for coming to the office and doing business with us and see how things are doing for you. Wow, thanks. So everything he said, I'd like to copy on it. But you'll also find once in a while, you'll sell a house that you have listed and the people come from Bob. They come and they buy my house that I have on the market, how I treated them, how I was honest and fair with them when there's a problem that comes up. And there's always challenges, let me redirect that word. There's always challenges that come up, that we were honest about it and we were transparent about all those things. It's surprising that not Bob, but a lot of agents never called their past client. But we talked to them, we followed up even after they, you know, were there. They called us back because the other realtor never called them. And their sphere of influence is important. Are you in a religious group? Are you in a volunteer capacity? Are you in any place to meet people? When was the last time you went out and met 6 new bankers? When was the last time you went out and asked your person to cut your hair? Or, you know, if they had any real estate needs? When was the last time you told everybody that you met, I want to know that I don't really know what you did for a living. What do you do every day? And then they're going to turn around and ask me, I'm a accountant. I get to work with people. What do you do? I get to educate them on buying or selling a house or making an investment. Sometimes I just help them refinance their property to help them get out of debt. I didn't get a sale. I didn't get a listing. I just help them by calling my past clients. They send all their friends to me because I took care of them.
Wow, that is so important. So just to recap, sphere of influence, highly important, reach out to them, Don't be shy. Don't feel like they're not wanting to hear from you, but you really just need to pick up the phone. Don't text, don't email, pick up the actual phone. And even with Robert, pick up or knock on the door.
Yeah, and really, one of the points to piggyback off that was, when I call someone, I typically, if I'm gonna call, if you call during one time, it's probably gonna be in that holiday timeframe, because people are generally disposed to be a little bit more relaxed, and there's a feeling of hope in the new year. They may be more receptive to those calls. But when I call someone, 9 times out of 10, I may talk about real estate. But I'm just like, I'm a goofball. So I had a tendency to say exactly what's on my mind, sometimes for better or for worse. But, I'll call and I'll just be like, hey, and I'll just say that and I'll just let it lie there. And people look and they're like, hey. and then, it totally, if there was any uncomfortable aspect of things, it totally breaks it down. Because, good guy, like I tell my son, I said, and I've been drilling this in him because we are so tied to this. And I said, the number one thing, if you could learn anything from your father, it's to be a good conversationalist. That is the number one thing that you need to do. Like you said, picking up the phone is so much different than hiding behind a barrier of a text or an email. If you don't have anything else to do and you don't have the time, then that's okay, it's a touch. But that personal touch, to me, if everyone else is doing this, I always say, well, look the other way and you'll get 100% of what everyone else isn't doing. Because people aren't picking up the phone anymore. They're texting and email to you.
And one of the other things, let's see if I can remember, because the things slip my mind too. One of my clients called and asked for help with her insurance. Wow. Okay, so we gave her several people and help. That was the perfect segue for me to call Mary back there in the back of the room and Joe back over there and say, we just helped a client this week with insurance costs, and insurance costs are going up. Have you looked at your insurance policy lately, and do you know when it's coming due? And
It's a good one.
Good idea just to see if your insurance covers what you think it does. And surprise, I checked online and it didn't, and I saved us a couple $1,000. It wasn't about me. It wasn't about selling them something. It was about giving them something. To your point.
That's incredible. So reach out, ask them if they need help, maybe saving some money, whether it's insurance, whether it's refinancing their home,
Painting,
anything.
electrician. I mean, you're gonna have those good cadre of people. Maybe it's refinancing your house because
Yeah.
the interest rates are good.
That's awesome. So question, when the ones that are out there wanting to move forward with their listings and trying, do you feel like farming is beneficial for agents, or do you feel, what are your thoughts about the farming? I know there's a lot of stuff going on, like, mailings or, with a specific neighborhood that you want to have that expertise in. What are your thoughts with that?
Is it my turn? I don't care.
Let's see.
Can I add one thing before you go?
By all means, go ahead.
Who is the biggest farmer of real estate right now? Who can answer that question for me? Who's the best person farming real estate right now?
Zillow?
Bingo.
Can you say it into the microphone so they can hear?
Zillow.
Bingo. Zillow, tell me her first name.
Lucy.
Lucy. Lucy said the person who is best at farming is Zillow. And they are really good at it. And they touch your clients or potential clients almost daily.
Wow, that's a good nugget.
And so to that point, part of it is beating Zillow at their own game and knowing that they have a successful model of things. For example, I do a lot of business historically in River Stream. I sold there, so what did I do? I just started my version of farming that area. Did newsletters, would always show up to events. I've always been of the personal opinion that, you take a sniper approach as opposed to a shotgun approach. So I like the farming aspect because I can become really good at one area. And if I'm really good at one area, chances are they're going to view me as an expert, which will mean that they'll start coming to me for more things, and sometimes not related, necessarily. Maybe it's an insurance quote, but that's an opportunity to have a conversation. So farming for me is how I basically built my business, and I've principally always been focused in Lakewood Ranch. Now I'm exploring downtown Sarasota a little bit. I've created a pillar. I've had a platform to stand on. Now I'm going to shore up that platform by adding another pillar, but I'm not going to focus all my attention on the islands and Venice. I'm going to have that there in my mind's eye, and I can talk intelligently about it, but you have to invest fully and become a better agent than most agents in the area that you're servicing. So right now, to kind of give you an example, downtown Sarasota, it's a focus that I'm wanting to learn. And again, I may be extreme, I don't know, but I'm memorizing every single building down there. Okay, what are the problems? Interviewing agents and saying, okay, which building do you stay away from? Which one is good? Do all the ones on the bay have full views? Which ones have boat docks and boat slips? Lombardi, he said preparation, preparation, preparation. I'm preparing for the opportunity to earn the right to work with these people that are looking in downtown Sarasota. I want to make sure that I can tell them what I know and what I don't know. Because that's the other thing. Everyone is always like, oh, I did this much in real estate. I have these many. You have to come from a position. I really like that, because when you say you don't know something, it basically makes you, come across as authentic, right? I don't have all the answers, but I tell you what, I'll find out for you. And people love that. And then you get back to them promptly. And I usually say, I might not be able to get you the answer right away, but I promise I'll get you something within X amount of time. I'm setting expectations, and when I fulfill those expectations, it further strengthens that bond. So it really always comes down to those relationships and learning how to work with these people in a meaningful way.
Wow, that is so awesome. Thank you so much. So in this current market that we're in right now, obviously we're dealing with multiple offers all the time, 15 at a time, 20 at a time. How do you navigate the multiple offers with your sellers? What do you do? Like, do you?
I upstage you, and I do apologize.
Oh, no.
I couldn't help but ask them a question.
No worries. But like, how do you navigate that? Do you talk to them, and do you explain? Do you communicate before you put it on the market? Do you have a sheet when you get all of the multiple offers going on, 20 offers at one time? How do you navigate that?
First, I put it in an Excel spreadsheet because, first I print them all out. And I know we're supposed to be paperless, but I need to print it out. I need to go over each offer and highlight the pluses, the minuses, the concerns, so I don't miss something. And yes, I have missed something in contract. Yes, I've written a check for something that I've missed in contract. No, I am not perfect. So that means I'm perfect. So I do that first, and then I let my seller know what's going on. We have multiple offers. Here's what I would suggest tell me what you want. What do you want? Well, I'll just take that offer. I said, well, I can share something with you that we had 25 offers on the last house, and we looked at the top 5 for what met the seller's request. Number 1 changed their mind, number 2 changed their mind, number 3 changed their mind, number 4 that they picked backed out, and number 5 bought the house. So I tell them, don't get greedy. Look at each one. Just because this one offered this much and he gets the contract, he might change his mind and this one might be the best one. So trying to give him realistic expectations.
I love that because, again, you speak my language in a lot of ways. I mean,
We're good.
You
guys
said
are a good
the
team.
whole greedy thing when, there's this lust of having, bidding up things and stuff. And when I see that lust in their eyes, I'm like, remember, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And it's true. It's true. And immediately they'll go, because that's a very visceral statement, right? But I say it in a comedic way, but in a serious way. Because when you're having a multiple offer situation, the other day, on one of my listings, got a full price cash offer right off the bat. And he didn't want it. I'm just sitting there going, well, I wanted to get bid up. And I'm like, work the deal in front of you. You may not get another one. So if we can satisfy your requirements, and of course, adding into the pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered type analogy, it does have a way of grounding people a little bit. And that's one of the things that I've not afraid to ask questions and also make statements that are uncomfortable, right? It's not about me getting a quick sale. It's about getting the best that the market has to offer right now for you. And if I don't have a very honest discussion with you right now about this, you may miss an opportunity. Maybe you get bid up, and now you're going to be waiting a little bit. What we're starting to see is, at least in some of my communities that I'm working in, we're getting multiple offers, but they're lessening. And that could be because of higher prices. It could be because of COVID. But multiple offers is, I love the idea of paring down and picking the best 5, because people have a tendency to go to overwhelm. So we narrow the vision of what they're considering. And I just think that's a great way to look at it, is just narrowing what they actually have the ability to mentally comprehend in that setting, and then proceeding from there and just making sure that you have the best expectations set before you go into those negotiations. So they're preconditioned to a certain degree to understand what's important in that process.
So communication, again, before you list, explain to them what is going on, what's happening in the market, and then set the standard, and then have like 5. That's awesome.
Well, there's something to add to this. So I had a Canadian who's not here, and there were 20 offers on the property. You can't send them all to them because you're not there to go over each one with them, and that's too hard. So we went over the big picture, and I said, these are the top 5, and here's what's going on. So a neighbor called and said, they never presented my offer. And so my seller thought that something had gone on behind her back, and she was upset because this was told her. And I said, they're all printed out. I'm going to send you the top 5, the second top 5, the third top 5, and the last 5. And you can see it's all on the spreadsheet that I will send to you, that I've looked it over, and you'll see her name, you'll see her client's name, and you'll see all of those issues all spelled out. She said, send me the spreadsheet. She said, never mind, don't send me anything. She said, I get it.
Wow.
I said, here's what her offer was, here's the one that you should, I got it. But being prepared, not skipping steps. Because somebody's gonna call and check up on you, you better make sure you've got your pencil and your paper, you've done your homework.
Note taking. Well, I can't believe it's already almost 1. I do have, you guys have been so much incredible information. I'm not even getting over some of my questions that I want. So the last question that I really do want you guys
She's
to,
doing a great job. isn't
Oh.
she?
thank you guys. I have a heart. I love this. My last question is, I'm going to combine it because I really wanted these 2 questions answered. So what advice can you give to agents for someone that's new in the business or struggling to grow their business? That's 1. And 2 is looking back. What is looking back into all your career, since you started, what is the biggest mistake you made and how did you overcome it?
Wow. I've had a lot of mistakes.
Can I just pick one?
Yeah. I know,
Yeah,
I'm literally trying to.
that's
think.
gonna really be a benefit to them that are starting out, or the ones that are even seasoned, like what you guys are experts and you've been seasoned. Please, by all means, we would love to hear it.
So sharing with you that I always try to go work with the agent first. I go try to have a conversation. I missed when you submitted the contract that the box was not checked, that the property has rentals. You missed it because your buyer was buying this property because there are rentals. It's part of the attachments in MLS. I missed checking it. So we need to come together to resolve this because I missed checking that box and you did. And so now if your buyer gets to closing and he decides he doesn't want any of the rentals, I haven't canceled them because now I've damaged my seller. Because if I cancel them and your guy doesn't buy, I've damaged my seller. And if your buyer gets to closing and says, I don't want those rentals, I can't sell the property, I can't deliver it free and clear of rentals. So I tried having a conversation with the agent. It's the first time in 43 years that an agent has told me, I'm not responsible for that. I said, well, you wrote the contract. Yeah, but I don't do that. Well, but we have to look out for the best interest of the clients to put the transaction together. I don't do that. I said, well, the mortgage commitment that I got says that the buyer is going to live in that property as a primary residence. That's fraud. Now it's in writing and I know it. Now it's in writing and I don't get involved in their financing. I said, but you wrote the contract. You know that he wants rental income. It's in all the documents that we emailed back and forth. And you know now that there's fraud involved. So my biggest mistake was I didn't check the box. So I have to admit it. So I called my seller and I said, there's a box that's not checked. The agent is not forthcoming in looking at this. And we need an attorney to make sure that this is handled properly, because I have to look out for your best interest. The biggest mistake I made was not checking the box. So the attorney's involved. It's great, because we have a good relationship with a couple of attorneys in town that we work with. Find somebody that is attentive to you. working with their attorney. And they'll resolve the issue. The buyer now has changed his mortgage because he now knows that he's guilty of fraud. I was not, I didn't know. Not knowing is no excuse. So that would be the biggest mistake I've made in 43 years, and I made it within the last couple of weeks. I learn something new every day. And I thought that once the mortgage contingency expires, we're done. Okay? Mortgage extended, mortgage contingency expired yesterday. They didn't ask for an extension. There's a whole bunch of things in that mortgage commitment letter that's still out for that buyer. So I'm learning. So I went to the attorney and I asked the question. I said, it says here that if there's some condition that is not okay with the lender, he can still get out of his purchase agreement. No, that's just for VA. And I said, doesn't say VA in there. And I said, you taught me specifics are specifics. Oh, Candy, we got a challenge here. Don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to admit you made a mistake. Don't be afraid to go ask the attorney. They're not perfect either. They're human beings. They miss boxes too. So that's my biggest mistake. What would I do different about growing my business?
No, what advice can you give to agents on a good piece of advice and all around in real estate and working with sellers?
Do I have to be honest? So I went to someone for advice before I got into real estate. She was about 70. So this was 45 years ago, and she said, do you need to make an income? I said, absolutely. She says, then don't go into real estate. She says, you give up too much. Did it anyway. So my best advice is if that's what you want to do it. You know, you don't have to have the shiniest new thing that comes along to be successful. Well, I already told you, it's just hard work. It's just picking up the phone. It's just doing a good job.
Thank you so much, Candy. Bob, really quick,
What's your biggest
I
mistake?
wanna hear what you have to say.
Yeah, my biggest mistake
Little, but
is
that's
how I for probably, I still struggle with this because I'm very, I am analytical, but I'm not numbers driven, and that's a challenge for me sometimes. And that's something that I've been working around. But what I discovered is, you know, to mitigate that, you surround yourself with others that are better than you in that capacity. And in terms of the mistake that I made, and this is I probably, if I would have surrounded myself with more people, I probably wouldn't have made this mistake right out the gate, because there's this tendency to want to do it all yourself. That's probably the biggest mistake, is understanding that a lot of people around you can really help you grow. And I remember I kept on losing all these listings. And I said, wow, I'm not good at this. And part of the reason I wasn't good is when I started out in 2011, the market was starting to ascend, and I was always told, go to the comps, go to the comps, go to the comps, which is true. It's true. But when you have comps, when you have an ascending market, that's where your experience and skill as a realtor really comes into play. But I was going, nope, the comps say this. And I probably lost $100,000 until I figured it out. You know, and that's because I didn't necessarily have all the people look at it, you know, look at it as a bigger picture. And I missed that. And that hurts. And now we're going to have the same thing if the market starts to cool going down, right? The sellers are not going to want to hear that. But I'm already starting to think in my mind's eye how I'm going to phrase that. So for me, it was in terms of advice, it's being, ultimately being humble in what you do and acknowledging that you don't know it all. And oftentimes I will find that almost always, the people that have been really successful, they know more than I do, right? They just know, maybe not in real estate, but in life, they know more than I do. So I'm always very respectful of that because chances are I'm going to learn as much from them as they are from me. And as a result, that authenticity comes out. You're so fascinated by what they're telling you, then you have a customer for life. Not because you were intending on making them a customer for life. It's just that you started to have a conversation and were fascinated in who they were. That's it.
Wow.
You did a great job about surrounding yourself with other people's input. It helps you avoid things that you miss.
So what I get out of that is whenever you have a weakness, find someone to help that with that weakness so it can be well-rounded. You guys, I know that we're a little over time. I have no words to say how much we appreciate you guys out here. I know that this is a busy time, and I know that you love to give back to realtors too. And thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your information, your expertise, your experience. We are so excited that you're here. Thank you again for your time. Does anybody have any questions before we close out? No one? No questions? Are there seeing subtle indicators of the market stalling, pausing, shifting, whatever word you want to use?
I have a question.
Sure.
Was there anything that you really wanted to ask that you didn't ask, or was there something that you wanted to share that would help us? Because you guys, you don't realize you have stuff to offer us too.
I have a question. So we're talking about valuation. So I'm an investor, and I've done stuff in New Jersey and also in Florida as well. And my question is, do you see values down here in this area? Do you see a lot of cash offers from your experience with sellers? You're dealing with, you're getting a lot of listings. You get a lot of cash offers. You get mortgage offers. Properties appraising. We're seeing a mix of that in our business. New Jersey, there's people buying properties cash, retail properties finished.
Yeah, I think so. And yeah, we're seeing a mix of everything. And sometimes it might be a little bit more centric depending on the type of, might be have more cash buyers in certain particular communities. But we're seeing a mix of everything. And I am seeing a softening of the market. It's not a firestorm anymore, but it's still hot, at least in my experience. But instead of seeing, I guess a lot depends on how you're pricing it too. So I guess if you're really priced appropriately, maybe it is a firestorm. But sometimes the expectations of the seller, we don't always win that battle.
To answer that question, he's spot on, because you have a listing, and so you don't want to miss the listing. You want that opportunity. And so I finally said to the people, this is what the market is saying. What price do you want? Kind of like, that's really scary for them. They want to tug of war with you. And so the one, I said, you're really way out there. I said, if you'll be where the comps are or a little bit underneath it, people know it's a good deal. You'll have multiple offers. But if you're going to reach way up here, you'll sit. They'll know it. A lot of cash offers. The people getting financing that are really trying to buy a house, it's tough for them. That answer your question?
Yeah, definitely. That's what I felt. So I just want to get your perspective, where you're sitting with, lots of sellers and activity wise out here. I'm not as into Florida, this area yet.
Is there anyone else before we close up?
Are you seeing any clues that you really feel are sincere and genuine as to any shifting yet from these firestorms that you've been dealing with, we've been dealing with for a length of time? Seeing any clues out there yet in terms of softening or whatever you want to call it?
So here's one thing that I do see. One of the people that is a friend works with the mortgage people, and she does all the behind the scenes things and gets the tax records and everything like that. And she said, Candy, do you realize how many properties are in limbo waiting for foreclosure? There should be a number of those coming into the market. Is it tomorrow? Is it next week? Will it just be the little properties down here? We learn from past experience. The big guys up here, they fall just as hard and fast as the little guys down here. So when will it happen? My crystal ball's really cloudy.
I think typically, at least in communities that I have spent a lot of time with, I'll be able to, like, for example, in River Strand, like we're National, there's various sizes of homes and condos. Usually if I start seeing the smaller properties slowing down, that initial price point, that sometimes can be indicative of some potential, because if they're slowing down at the lower level where theoretically we should have more activity because it's a lower price point, if we start seeing that like in Lakewood National, there's no bidding anymore for terraces. I mean, that hasn't happened in a long time. And always the best way you can tell whether a market is cooling or not is go to builders and ask how they're doing in various aspects of the communities, because they have the finger on the pulse. And if you have an honest discussion with them, you'll learn a lot.
And I agree. So just Sky Ranch has put some properties on the market. They're taking offers on the dirt. So if the lot is 18,000, do you know what the average bid on that lot is?
28,
Double.
Wow,
36, okay.
it's crazy.
Yeah, that's good, Lucy.
Same thing's happening down there. I went to a networking event for investors down at Fort Myers. So those guys that do this land development, land flips and stuff, they're saying the same exact thing. So the migration path is like something like that. Came down here about a year ago, but Alex, who are next door neighbor practically. But there's a lot of people that I know, friends of mine buying houses. Lakewood Ranch, I got 2 buddies of mine, they're building houses there, one that just closed. So that's, I mean, I'm with everything we're talking about, but from an investor standpoint, I feel like there's just so much movement down this way, away from certain parts of the United States and Canada as well. I personally am very optimistic about the market down here. So I think there's like sub-markets from an investor standpoint, right? We can't like generalize the market or like the lead, like there's a lot of sub-components, subtleties. That's how I see it at least.
Wow. Well, thank you guys so much for coming. We are so appreciative of the knowledge and information that you have given us, and hopefully you out in the audience as well as Zoom had gotten something from this. We really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Please, if you have any other questions, let me know and I'll do whatever I can to help you guys get answered. But that's going to end our session. So thank you so much.